Elizabeth Martin. I'm 22 years old and I got out of a 6-year abusive relationship. Well, it started out like good. I gotten out of a relationship where I'd been cheated on, so I was kind of like mistrustful, and he was really nice to me, and like, I don't know, it was just, here was this guy who actually paid attention to me. So I thought like, oh, this is great. His parents, like, well, his mom loved me, his stepdad, like, you know, really liked me. I started to get to know his family. And you know, for a while it was good, except he was very antisocial, didn't have a lot of friends, and I would always like explain it away. Like, he acted kind of rude when he'd meet my friends or people. His philosophy was like, you don't need friends, they're just gonna screw you over anyways. And I don't know why I like let that happen, but I thought it was fine. And then little things I'd say a couple months in, there'd be things like, oh, that's dumb, why'd you say that? And I didn't really like put two and two together. Usually I don't let people talk down to me, but for some reason, like, I just kind of, it was like a slow enough progression. And then it started to become like the thing where it'd be like, oh, you're not wearing makeup today? Or why'd you wear that? Or like, I remember one day I was really sick, like I had a migraine or something, and I had sweatpants on, like no makeup, my hair was in a bun, like, I felt like miserable. And the first thing he said was, why sweatpants? Why didn't you put jeans on? And so it was like, it was a lot of like the verbal abuse, and that progressed. And then I'd say maybe it was 2.5 years in, when like some of the physical abuse started happening. Like little things at first, like a slap or like grabbing my wrist really tight. And then like it kept getting worse, and like there were times where I'd like say like, you need to stop or I'm gonna break up with you. But I think he knew like my threats weren't serious. And so like it got to the point where we were talking about marriage, and we were gonna get married. He even had the ring purchase that he was gonna propose to me in Rome. And it's so deep, like I know, like it was we went to the Dominican Republic for our 4-year anniversary, and I remember like we got in an argument one night and he slapped my cheek so hard that I had a handprint on my face for the whole rest of the night. And I remember thinking, like, this is a red flag, like, it's over, like, I'm gonna end this. But then the rest of the week was fine. That was the beginning of the week. And by the time we left, I was like, oh, that's great, we did our first trip together. And it would always be like one more thing, like something would be so horrible, and then immediately it's like, oh, well, this is actually not bad. There were only 2 friends who knew anything of that. Everyone else just saw, like, no one was a fan of him, and I could tell. People wouldn't outright say it, which I wish they had, but there was like this implied, like, he's not right for her, there's something, like my mom made the comment of, it was almost as if I was losing myself, like I wasn't the same person that I wasn't the person that she thought I was on track to become. I had started switching, I was doing things like I didn't normally do, like junior miss pageants because his mom had me do it, or like going hunting, and like I'm not about that. But I do remember one time I had gone to visit him for the weekend, and I came back to Temple, and my friend Danielle, I was talking with her, and I still had a rash on my hand. He had grabbed my arm really tightly and twisted it, and it had like developed into this rash. And I remember she asked me about it, and I made up some excuse like, oh, like I must have like brushed it wrong on something, like when we were doing this. And she like gave me this look, and like I knew she was like wanting to say more, but like she didn't. And the other person only knew about the verbal abuse. I never told her about the physical abuse, and she'd say like, oh, you're better than this, you don't need that. And I would just like push it away as like, oh, he's stressed, like, you know, his job's, like, it's, you know, not important. Like there was one time he was really angry at me, and he pushed me up against a wall, and he just said, you're a little piece of shit. And he started shaking me, and I remember like he was like spitting on me. That's how close up to me he was and angry. And I remember thinking, oh, well, you know, he just found out that like he didn't get this job he applied for, so, you know, it's okay. And that like was not okay, and I didn't know. Because I was on a Pompeii trip with my class, and I remember there was this kid, Chris, and I hadn't talked to him that much before, but like in my classes we sorted it, and there was like one moment where we were talking and everything, and all of a sudden I realized I was developing a crush on him, and I was like, and I started examining like why I had a crush on him, and I realized he was everything opposite of what Josh was. and like healthy, and like the way he talked about treating women and stuff, because a part of the time I'd always be like, oh, well, it's just that's what guys say. Guys do, and I realized here's this guy who would never say those things, like would never call me a piece of shit, would never throw me up against the wall, would never like, you know, spit on me, yell at me, slap me, like nothing. And it was just like, I realized at that moment, like it was that Monday when I got home from the class trip, is when I told Josh that I needed a break and started that whole process. But even still, I'd say 3 times I went back and went to take him back. And it was actually the way he reacted after I asked for a break that gave me the strength to break up with him. If he had acted really suave about it, I might not have been able to get out of it. Well, he would do things, because he knows I'm an emotional person and a sensitive person, and I don't like to cause other people pain. And he would start, like we were an ocean away, but he would start doing things like just constantly emailing me and saying things like, you don't know what you're doing. He had his mom email me and say like how upset she was. I remember there was one line where she said, you know, my heart is just so heavy right now, I don't know what to think. And like I was really close with his mom, and his mom doesn't know, and probably never, I didn't tell her, I didn't want to hurt her. But, you know, to hear those words from her made me think like, oh, like, can I break this connection, like all this stuff. And then it started out by just sending me emails, trying to Facebook chat with me, all those kinds of things. And I remember there was one, well, there were 2 moments. The first one was he sent me, I was getting ready to leave for Germany for the weekend, and I got this email from him, and all it was the lyrics to our song, which was Lone Star, Baby I'm Amazed by You, but like, just seeing those lyrics just like made like everything come back, and I was just like crying. It really affected me, because all of a sudden all the positives were coming back, and I was thinking, well, maybe it wasn't so bad. And I almost started to revert, and like my roommates who were there with me were like, no, you can't do this, you need to block. And that's when I actually blocked his email address from my email account. And then I'd say it was about a month later, maybe 3 weeks, and I hadn't unfriended him on Facebook yet, and we were talking and all this stuff, and all of a sudden he starts telling me, he's like, you know what you did to me, you put me on antidepressants, like you're doing all these things, and he's like, you know what, I just want to kill myself. And the day after I had asked him for a break in Rome, he and his mom showed up at my house in Lancaster with the ring, and just flat out asked my mom if I was cheating on him. That's the first thing they did, and I happened to be on video chat with my sister at the time, who was also like with my mom, so she was like relaying everything, and like I guess my mom was shocked, because she never thought, like, you know, she was worried that we were getting too serious, like it'd been 6 years, and she knew like he wasn't right for me, but she didn't know why. Like she just had this uneasy feeling that like I wasn't happy, that I wasn't myself, that things weren't right. And like after everything was done, like I did tell her there was abuse, but like I know she's asked me multiple times like to give details, to tell the extent of what happened, and I just, A, I don't want to open up about it, and B, I feel like it would hurt her and my dad too much to know these things and know that they were going on, and they would feel bad because they could have stopped it. And I'm dating new Josh now, a little confusing, but I remember there have been times where, like one time, I forget what was happening, but like Josh accidentally like put his hand up and like it like hit me, and I know he immediately felt really bad, but it was like ruined our relationship, and I just like curled up, like it was like instant reflex, and I just like, there was a time shortly before I went to Rome, and I was spending the weekend with him, and I remember I had taken my contacts out and put my glasses in. We were watching a movie before we were going to go to bed, like we weren't around anyone, and I remember he made a comment to me like, oh, why don't you just take your glasses off? And I said, well, then I won't be able to see the movie. And he was like, oh, it's okay, you've already seen this movie. So he was pretty much saying like the fact that, because he often said like one time I had a profile picture up of me with glasses, and he wanted me to take it down because he didn't think I looked as good with glasses on. And it was just like him saying he would rather me not be able to watch the movie than him have to see me with glasses on. And that was just like, I don't know why I let it happen. Like I'm an independent person, and the fact that like it makes me really angry to think that I let someone control my life like that. Because I always thought I was powerful enough to say no, but like the truth of the matter was like I wasn't. I got like duped, and I don't know, it's like that's almost the most frustrating part for me is the fact that like I could clearly, like, I'm the first person that would say women need to stand up for themselves. They need to not be in abusive relationships. And then to realize that I was in one for that many years, it's like scary because it means that like how many women are actually in a relationship like that and they have no idea. And the only way for me, the only way I was able to get out of it was because I went to Rome. If I had to have gone to Rome, I would be getting married in a couple months and live my life in a horrible situation. And it's scary.